Welcome to another deep dive. And this one might just reshape how you think about healing.
Oh, absolutely.
We are diving deep into Art Martin's Your Body is Talking. Are You Listening?
It's a fascinating book.
Filled with these intriguing case studies that really challenge conventional medical wisdom.
Yeah, it's interesting because Martin, he really flips the script. He suggests that our minds, our beliefs, and our emotions, even past experiences, play a much larger role in health and disease than, we typically acknowledge.
So right off the bat, we're not talking about your typical, eat your vegetables and get some rest type of advice.
Right.
Martin's arguing that our deeply held beliefs can actually cause illness.
Yeah.
And he even explores this idea of past lives impacting our present health.
That's right.
It's fascinating stuff. And his journey, this all started with his own chronic back pain.
It did.
Years of traditional treatment and no relief in sight.
He was really struggling.
Even facing the prospect of ending up in a wheelchair.
Yeah, it must have been terrifying to face that.
Absolutely. So what was it? What shifted his perspective and led him down this alternative path?
Well, it seems like it was this moment of deep self-discovery. And he realized that his pain, it stemmed from all this suppressed emotion.
Oh, wow.
This fierce need to control everything and a fear of being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And, this realization, it led him to explore all these different alternative healing methods. And that's eventually how he developed his own method, which he calls neurocellular repatterning, or NCR.
So Martin's core belief here is that our mental and emotional states directly influence our physical well-being.
That's right.
It's, that whole mind-body connection we hear about, but maybe don't always fully grasp.
Yeah, for sure.
Does the book give any examples of this in action?
Oh, absolutely. There are tons.
Okay.
There's this really striking case of a woman who developed all these symptoms that really mirrored multiple sclerosis.
Wow.
She was having difficulty walking, fatigue, blurred vision, you name it.
And traditional treatments, I'm assuming, weren't providing any relief?
Very little, yeah.
So if traditional medicine wasn't the answer, what did Martin uncover?
Well, he discovered that she was harboring all this deep resentment and anger toward her husband, who she perceived as controlling and emotionally distant.
Okay.
And so as she began to process and release these emotions, her MS-like symptoms completely vanished.
That's a really powerful example of how our internal world can manifest physically.
Yeah.
Now, this concept of past lives influencing our present health, that's a bit outside the mainstream, wouldn't you say?
It certainly is.
Okay, so how does Martin approach this?
So Martin believes that unresolved trauma from past lives, it can actually become trapped in our cellular memory.
Interesting.
And then this creates this ripple effect of physical and emotional issues in the present.
Okay, could you maybe elaborate on that a little bit? What kind of examples does he provide?
Sure. So he describes this one man who was plagued by chronic pain, and Martin traces this back to a past life as a firing squad rifleman.
Oh, wow.
And he believes that the act of taking lives in that past life, according to Martin, it manifested as physical pain in his present life.
So you're saying that the burden of those actions, even from a past life, could be carried forward on a cellular level?
That's the idea that Martin proposes.
Wow.
He also describes a woman with limited neck movement that he linked to a past life experience operating a guillotine.
Wow. So after addressing this past life trauma, I'm assuming her neck mobility improved.
Dramatically, yeah.
These are some intriguing, if unconventional ideas.
Definitely.
It makes you think about the hidden depths of our minds and our bodies.
It does.
And how much we may not yet understand.
Absolutely.
And Martin doesn't stop there. He also delves into the concept of subpersonalities.
Yeah.
Essentially, these are aspects of ourselves that operate on autopilot.
That's right.
And sometimes work against our own best interests.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
So it's like our own minds can sometimes sabotage our well-being.
Exactly.
That's a bit unsettling.
It can be.
So tell me more about these subpersonalities and how they develop.
Well, Martin says these subpersonalities develop as protective mechanisms.
Okay.
And they're often rooted in, our childhood experiences.
So kind of like defense mechanisms, but on a deeper level?
Exactly. And the thing is, they can operate unconsciously without our even being aware of them.
Oh.
And because they're driven by, past hurts and fears, they can inadvertently sabotage our relationships, our careers, even our health.
It's amazing how much our past can impact us in ways we don't even realize.
It really is.
Could you give an example from the book that kind of illustrates this point?
Yeah, so Martin presents this case study of a man who repeatedly lost jobs and would sabotage his relationships.
Oh.
And it turned out that this subpersonality driven by a need for validation was kind of running the show.
A need for validation, huh?
Yeah, and it stemmed from these childhood experiences where he felt like his parents' love was, conditional based on his achievements.
Oh, that's got to be tough.
It is, yeah.
So this subpersonality that was created to protect him from further rejection ended up pushing people away.
Exactly. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Wow. So this example really highlights how these unconscious patterns can play out in our lives.
It does, and it makes you wonder how many of our struggles might be linked to these hidden subpersonalities.
It's both fascinating and unsettling to consider.
It is.
But if we can identify these patterns, as Martin suggests, does that mean we can change them?
That's the empowering message here.
Okay.
Awareness is the first step towards taking back control.
Right. Taking back control. I like that.
Now, you might be wondering, with all these seemingly miraculous healings in the book, could it just be the placebo effect at play?
Yeah, that's a valid question.
It is.
The mind's power to influence healing is undeniable. So does Martin address this in the book.
He does. He acknowledges the placebo effect, but argues that true healing goes beyond just symptom relief.
Okay.
It requires addressing the root cause, which often lies in these limiting beliefs and emotional patterns we've been discussing.
So it's not about just feeling better temporarily, but about unearthing and transforming the underlying cause of our suffering.
Exactly. He believes that those who experience these profound healings often do so because they've unconsciously shifted these deeply held beliefs that were holding them back. It's about rewriting our mental scripts.
That makes a lot of sense. That brings us to a key question.
Right.
How does Martin help people actually achieve this transformation? What is this neurocellular repatterning, or NCR, that he developed?
So NCR is a blend of energy work and affirmations targeted at specific acupuncture points.
Interesting. So he's combining ancient healing techniques with modern psychology.
Exactly, he is.
So he's using this technique to help people release negative programming and promote healing at a cellular level.
That's the...
Are there any specific examples from the book that showcase NCR in action?
Oh yeah, there's one really striking example that involves a man with a frozen arm.
A frozen arm.
Yeah, his arm had been frozen for over 10 years.
10 years. Wow, that's hard to even imagine.
I know, right?
The physical, emotional toll that must have taken.
It must have been awful.
So what happened when Martin used NCR with him?
Well, during this session, as the man was releasing this deep-seated fear of failure, something he hadn't consciously realized was holding him back, his arm uncurled right there on the table.
It uncurled, just like that?
Just like that. Releasing that fear, according to Martin, unlocked his arm.
That's incredible. That's like something out of a movie.
I know, it's amazing.
Does he offer any other examples that illustrate the potential of NCR?
He does. There's another compelling case. It's a woman who had struggled with chronic candida for years.
Candida, that can be so tough to deal with.
It can.
And she had tried everything. Special diets, medications, but nothing provided lasting relief.
Yeah, it sounds like she had exhausted all the conventional options.
So what did Martin discover was at the root of her condition?
He uncovered this pattern of childhood rejection that led her to believe she wasn't worthy or lovable.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. And this deeply ingrained belief, according to Martin, manifested as a physical ailment.
So as she worked with Martin to address those feelings and reclaim her self-worth, her candida cleared up.
It did, completely.
These stories are really quite compelling.
They are.
They make you question how much we've overlooked the mind's power to heal in our modern medical approaches.
Yeah.
It seems like Martin's work is really about reclaiming that power.
It is. It's about taking back control.
Now, I know Martin also has some interesting ideas about food's role in healing.
He does.
Does he advocate any specific diets or restrictions?
Well, that's an important point to bring up because, surprisingly, Martin doesn't view food as the primary factor in healing.
Really? That's a different perspective from what we often hear.
It is, yeah.
So if not food, what does he see as the bigger culprit when it comes to illness?
He believes that negative emotions and limiting beliefs are far more detrimental to our health than our food choices.
So our thoughts and feelings can actually be more harmful than what we eat.
That's what Martin suggests. He says that our mental and emotional states create a terrain within our bodies that can either support or hinder healing.
So it's not about denying the importance of a healthy diet,
No, not at all.
but about understanding that it's only one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly.
While he does recommend minimizing red meat, sugar, white flour, and focusing on vegetables, fruits, fish, and grains, his emphasis is on addressing that inner landscape.
Yeah, he believes that's where true healing begins.
It sounds like a balanced and mindful approach to eating, but not overly restrictive.
Right. It's about finding what works for you.
Does Martin offer any other tools or techniques for addressing this inner landscape?
He does. He describes something called the stress buster.
The stress buster, what is that?
It's a technology that produces a specific frequency that he believes aids in healing and stress reduction.
So it's like giving your system a tune-up on an energetic level.
Exactly.
This deep dive has been filled with some really thought-provoking ideas about the interconnectedness of our minds and bodies.
It has.
What are some key takeaways that you hope listeners will glean from our exploration of Art Martin's work?
Well, I think Martin's work really challenges us to consider this profound interconnectedness of our minds and bodies.
Yeah.
You know, he suggests that our physical health is actually a reflection of our inner landscape, our beliefs, our emotions, and even those deeply buried experiences that we might not even remember.
It's like he's saying our bodies are constantly communicating with us.
They are.
And if we learn to listen, we might uncover the root causes of what ails us.
Exactly.
It's fascinating.
It is. And, you know, perhaps the most empowering takeaway here is that we have far more control over our health and well-being than we might realize. It's not about denying the role of genetics or, external factors, but recognizing that our inner world plays a significant role in how those factors manifest in our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's about understanding that true healing often involves more than just addressing physical symptoms.
Right.
It requires exploring the underlying emotional and mental patterns that might be contributing to those symptoms in the first place.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion, to get to the root of the issue.
Right.
And once we uncover those root causes, then we can begin to rewrite those mental scripts and create a more balanced and harmonious state of being.
Martin's book is packed with real-life stories of people who experienced remarkable healing by tapping into this power of their minds and addressing those underlying emotional patterns.
And these stories really highlight the potential for transformation when we embrace a more holistic approach to healing.
It makes you question those limitations that we often place on ourselves.
It does.
And what might be possible when we start to challenge those limitations.
Exactly. And it raises a really important question for our listeners.
Okay.
If you could release one limiting belief that's impacting your health or happiness right now, what would it be?
That's a powerful question to ponder.
It is.
It might be a belief about your worthiness, your ability to heal, or even your capacity for happiness.
Yeah.
What unconscious scripts are running in the background, shaping your experiences?
And, identifying that belief is the first step toward transformation. Once you bring it into the light of awareness, you can begin to challenge its validity and rewrite that narrative.
And if you're feeling inspired to delve deeper into this fascinating connection between mind, body, and healing, I highly encourage you to check out Art Martin's book, Your Body is Talking, Are You Listening? It's a journey into a world that challenges conventional thinking and offers a new perspective on the potential for healing and transformation that exists within each of us.
It's a reminder that we're not just passive recipients of our circumstances, but active participants in creating our own health and well-being.
So well said. Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the world of alternative healing.
My pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep listening to what your body is telling you.